think I will go. I think I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Yep, looks good. It's coming through.
So thank you, Shane. I'm really glad to be here tonight. I was telling Shane that I was really excited to see all of the workshops that you all are having, and hopefully we can take this idea back and do something like this for our leaders in Michigan, or they can be involved in something like this in the future. But just to introduce myself, I'm Connie Lang. As Shane said, I'm with Michigan State University, and I work with 50% of my position is working in a county. I'm in Southern Michigan, working in a county with the day-to-day things that you all know that 4-H works with, projects, leaders, members. And then 50% of my time is on the state level with leadership and civic engagement. And in Michigan, we have different work teams. My work team, as I said, is leadership, civic, and cultural engagement. And we do trainings state level and really all over on a wide variety of things. And community service and service learning just happens to be one of the things that we talk about. So if I could, I would just like to quickly, we call it with our leadership, our youth leadership group, just popcorn around to all the participants. If you would introduce yourself and maybe just share a little bit about your 4-H connection, what you do in 4-H, are you a club leader, a project leader? What are the things, our staff person? What are the things that you do in 4-H? Just a little brief introduction of yourself. And I'm going to put Denise on the spot because your appears right under Shane's name. So sorry, Denise, hopefully it's okay that I put you on the spot. But if you want to go ahead and open your mic and just introduce yourself and where you're from and your connection to 4-H.
Sure, I don't mind. Yeah, I'm Denise Hastings, Neosho County, Southwind District, and I am a pretty new club leader. Last year was my first year leading the club, but we actually have older children who are adults now that we were involved with 4-H with them. So probably involved almost going on 20 years now, probably.
Wow. Great. Please interject at any time, Denise. Those 20 years are more valuable than anything. So please share. Denise, can you just select someone else and just call their name out? Can you see the participants on the screen?
I've lost the names now, but I think I remember seeing a Delaney, and that's my youngest daughter's name. So I'll go with Delaney.
Hello, I'm Delaney Snyder. I'm from Douglas County. I am a 4-H alum and new 4-H parent. So just learning how I can get the youth more involved.
Welcome, Delaney. Thanks for coming tonight. Can you pick someone else, popcorn to someone else, as we call it?
Let's go with Melissa.
Hi, I'm with Clay County 4-H. I grew up in Dickinson County 4-H. My daughter was in Cloverbuds last year, and I was the leader for that. I'm going to be the leader again for Cloverbuds as my daughter goes to regular 4-H. My son's coming into Cloverbuds, and I'm also down to be a project leader. So I'm kind of jumping in both feet here as I'm getting back into the 4-H again. So I'm excited.
Wonderful. Sounds exciting.
And let's go to Vicky.
Good evening. My name is Vicky Wallace. I'm in the Southwind District. I'm a Master 4-H volunteer. I've been an entomology project leader for almost 50 years now. I've been a community leader, junior leader sponsor, project leader for a lot of projects. I judge club days and fairs. I'm a judge at the state fair. Let's go to Denise.
Unless there's two Denises on, I think we've already heard from Denise.
Okay, let's go to Mike.
There you go. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Taylor, and so my experience, I'm brand new. I was just voted to be the club leader this year, I guess, for my sense of humor. But I I am brand new to this. My experience is I'm 30 years retired military, so this is going to be a treat for me to. I'm just looking forward to trying to improve the program. And that's why I'm doing these Zoom calls each night or when they're available, just so I can try and make the best better. Let's go with Christina.
Hello. I am actually Dr. Christina Frick, and I am a veterinarian. I am a 12-year alumni of Pawnee County 4-H. And after I was out of school, I pretty much stepped into volunteer positions, speaking with 4-H groups. When I came back home, I was asked to be the Skillathon coach, which was a new thing about 20 years ago. I stepped into that position, so I've been the county leader for that. And then my kids now are in 4-H. I've got a child that is 11 and then twins that are 9. And so getting back into more of the project leaders and helping my kids out and helping our club out.
Christina, did you want to select somebody? Do you want to popcorn to somebody?
I was not paying attention. It says Snell Computer. Have we done that one yet?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Snell, and I'm with Sedgwick County 4-H. I grew up in Pratt County 4-H, and I'm in my 8th year, I think it is now, being community leader for our club, and have taken on a couple of different projects. I haven't done real well as a project leader, but I hope to start transitioning to a little bit younger parent because my kids are getting into high school, and I'd like to have a smooth transition for our community leaders. Oh, I need to pick somebody, don't I?
Yeah, who is not gone?
Terry Kretzmeyer, have you gone?
Terry, are you with us?
I think Terry just dropped it in the chat. I can read it for.
Please do.
Terry said they're a former 4-H member, club leader, project leader, and state action team photo camp, clothing camp since 1983. And Terry's not a quiet place right now. And I can go ahead and jump in after Terry. My name is Jareth. I'm an advisor for the State Youth Council. Been working with them for a few years after I was on the council for a couple years when I was in high school. And like Melissa, I'm a Dickinson County 4-H alum, and now I live down in Wichita, so Sedgwick County. Moved here a couple months ago after graduating college, and I still work with a community conversations project. You might have heard it called Stories Matter or something like that, but working on leadership and communication skills in the area of community vitality. So I'm excited to be here, and I'll call on my friend Ginger.
Welcome to Sedgwick County, Jareth.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Jareth. Ginger Kofer, I'm the Geary County 4-H agent, and excuse me, in my role, I get to work with our ambassador group and our 4-H council, so lots of things related to service learning. And I will popcorn to Heather.
Hi guys, my name is Heather Measler, and I am in a part of the Barton County 4-H, which is actually through Cottonwood District now. And my daughter, my oldest, just graduated high school and is in college now, but she was actually a Cloverbud with 4-H. So I was new to 4-H when she started as a parent. And since then, she's been pretty involved with 4-H throughout the year. So with that, I became pretty involved as well with her. And I'm helping with our horse project, and especially with the hippology project, things like that. So I'm helping, and I'm a club leader now. And my youngest daughter is 13, so she's involved as well. So again, it sounds like a lot of people are alum. I feel like even though I've been doing this a few years, I'm still learning. But I love the 4-H, its foundation, and like some of the others on here, I'm excited for these series to help learn. And let's see, looking through the list, did a Stacy go? I'm not sure. Just trying to find some name that didn't go yet.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
My name's Stacy Haug, and I am in the Meadowlark, Nemaha County district. I did not grow up with 4-H. I grew up down in Shawnee County, and so I guess I always thought it was just like a farm kid thing. And then my daughter brought home a flyer from school probably 6 years ago and wanted to join, so I was surprised at all the stuff you could do. But I started out as a Cloverbud leader, and this year I'm the club leader for the second time, and then I'm also project leader for a few areas. Oh, and I don't know who hasn't gone. Kathy?
Okay. My name is Kathy Downey. I'm with Mendocino District, Miami County, and I am just a grandparent. New to 4-H. My granddaughter actually started in 4-H in the year of COVID, which was really a bad year to start. But learning as much as we can. My sister has 2 boys in our club that have been in for a while, and our club is recently changing the older children. The older kids have graduated. We've got 3 new families joining, so it's kind of like learn as much as possible so that we can keep the club going strong. And Amber.
All right, great job.
Okay, I have just joined, so I'm not sure if I'm following everything, but I'll try to repeat what other people have. So for my 4-H background, I was in 4-H as a kid until high school, and my 3 kiddos have been in 4-H. My oldest started when she was 7, but the younger 2 started as Cloverbuds. I've been a 4-H leader for my kiddos clubs. 4-H has kind of always been in our life since I've always had a grandparent or aunt or uncle or my parent who was in 4-H. So I guess I know a lot from the program from that, and I really appreciate it, what it provides, the opportunities. And let's see, I've been a club leader, helped out in various ways. I'm a project leader for the club for Reading and Rabbit, and a district project leader for reading. And I'm not sure who's not gone at all. Sorry, I just joined.
That's okay. Thanks, Amber. Who else needs to go? Who haven't we heard from?
I can go. My name is Jackie Bolin. I'm in Pottawatomie County, and this is our family's 3rd year in 4-H. We recently moved to the area and heard about it through school. So I have an 8th grader, a 4th grader, and a Cloverbud, a 1st grader. And I am co-community leader this year with a friend who grew up in 4-H. So hoping together we can tackle all that it is going to take to do it. We have about probably 50 active members. So having some, figuring out how to do management of all that. So.
Wonderful. Who else haven't we heard from? Is that everyone? Well, I'd like to thank you all for indulging me and sharing your story with me. I often just marvel at the richness of years in 4-H, projects taken, experience had through 4-H, and you all could could teach me through programs, and I wish we had more time to do that. But please feel free to ask any questions. I feel like I was going in a little bit unknowing what your experience level was, and things like that. So if I'm not hitting the nail on the head, so to speak, with what you want to hear, please just ask the questions, open your mic and ask the questions. I see something in the chat. Terry, did we read that, Shane, Terry's information there? Okay. And Shane, if I could ask you to watch the chat and bring that to my attention, because I can't see the chat without opening it up. So that would be great. So
sounds good.
This first slide is something that's very near and dear to my heart. As Michigan State University is an affirmative action campus extension. We invite everyone to be a part of 4-H, try to help those who have struggles to be involved in 4-H. And I just really believe that all our project leaders, all our project areas, especially community service, can involve anyone. Anyone can be a part and can help and be helped through 4-H. It's just, like I said, just very near and dear to my heart that we make our programs available to all. Okay, this next slide I thought was kind of fitting for, we're doing a lot of bonfires here, and of course with bonfires being outside, there's lots of mosquitoes. So just some food for thought. If you think you're too small to have an impact, try going to bed with a mosquito. And isn't that the truth? They always seem to find you and like that. And I think this says something to our young people. Sometimes they have the feeling like, how can I make a difference? How can I change things? And community service is just something that can help them learn those things, that no matter how small, you can make an impact, even with just one person. Community service learning projects are very important. And I think they give as much as they get. Young people give as much as they get through doing community service programs. So this next slide, I'm not sure how much you've heard about community service learning. So I just put this slide in here to kind of go over what the difference is. Community service is any act of volunteer giving without pay. If you look it up like in a dictionary, that's what you're going to find. It's typically a one-time project. It typically doesn't include an educational component. I kind of argue there. I think anytime you do community service, you're going to learn through that service, but it typically doesn't emphasize that educational component. There's no reflection or processing that takes place after a community service project, but it does help the community. It is important. As opposed to a service learning, there's usually some sort of strategy that takes place to find out the needs of the community or the group that you're working with that you want to help. There's some intentional learning objectives, and it's a structured opportunity for reflection. After the project is over, then the learning sometimes is emphasized for the members involved in the community service. It's a very intentional project. It's usually a longer duration from planning to celebration. It's an ongoing project. We already talked about learning objectives and having a real goal in mind once you start the service learning project. It includes the reflection, the processing at the end of the project. And like I said, there is two-way learning. It's not just a give. There's giving to both the member who's providing the service and the people who enjoy the service or need the service. So when you hear community service, what do you think? Do you think it's positive, negative? What's your first inkling that you think of when you think of community service? Do I have any brave souls that can just kind of off the cuff answer that?
Very positive.
Very positive.
I always think you're doing something for someone else.
Okay. Yeah. So it's positive, very positive.
I always think it's a good experience for yourself as well as those that you're helping.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Well, believe it or not, some people equate community service with a negative side. They think of community service, and I don't know if in Kansas, in your state, community service is given as like if a student in high school gets in some trouble, they might have to do community service to make up for that trouble. Or if somebody gets in some legal trouble, some of the restitution will be done in community service. Some people think it's a requirement and they object to being told what to do. It becomes a dreaded thing. Oh, we have to do it. We have to do this community service. Some people think community service or service learning takes too much prep time. Maybe young people won't think it's fun, so they won't participate. So sometimes, not very often in 4-H, but sometimes you might run up against those negative thoughts when you say community service. I know I used to work in a program first with some court adjudicated young people. And I had to work really hard to make them understand that community service is a good thing. And after we did a couple projects, they had that good internal feeling that you get after you do community service. So it kind of turned them around. But I put this slide in there just to make you think. Sometimes we just take it for granted that everybody thinks community service is a positive thing. But there are those folks out there that kind of look at it as the negative. So first, the why. Community service learning. And I keep going back to the mosquito slide. And I keep saying any service is meaningful, no matter how big or how small. If a young person sets out to do anything to help somebody else, that should be celebrated and that should be thought of in the highest regards. And one of the projects that I did at one of our events, I kind of got this feedback from a young person that the community service we did today will be helpful to the one who receives it. And we made some Tide blankets and we were going to give them away. But through service learning, you would learn so much more and the project would be better. So after I taught this session that showed them the difference between community service, they made the Tide blanket. I just set the things out there and said, here, go to it with no plan, no who we're going to give them to, what they might like, what they might need. And then we talked about, well, what could we have done to make this project better? And they kind of listed all the things that a service learning project entails. You talk about it, you find out what they need and who needs what, and set some goals and go through the project. So first, the why is why do you do community service? Why do you want to make it a service learning project? Those are the things I think we need to tackle when we're thinking about doing a project, a service project. There's 3 types of services. And I think in my own mind, when I'm working with a group of young people, if I ask them, what do you want to do? And the same themes come up, I can kind of help them understand what kind of service they want to do. Direct service, indirect service, and advocacy. So the direct service is when I use an example for all 3 of these. Say they they have a need, they see a need in their community where people are hungry, so they want to help solve that. So the direct service, they might go into a soup kitchen or plan a meal for a group that wouldn't normally have enough food. So they have that direct service. They meet face to face with the person that they're serving. Through direct service, you can see that on this slide that participants generally learn to be responsible for their own actions, be dependable. They make a difference in another person's life, and they really see that head on. You know, it's not like they make something and give it away. They meet the person they're helping front and center. They focus on the needs of others, and they put their own problems into context. And I like to say they learn empathy, maybe a little bit more through direct service, seeing that person, seeing their station in life, and maybe thinking, oh, and I complained about having eggs again for breakfast, you know, and you know, these people don't have breakfast or any food at all. And they learn to get along with different people other than themselves. They can relate to people outside of their own little world. So oh, my slides just want to go by themselves here. So indirect service, if you take that same example and you do a food drive, so you're collecting all the food, and then you just give it to the food bank. That's an indirect service that you don't have that one-on-one contact with the people that are going to get the food in the end. So through that, we do this with our exchange club. We have a food drive just because timing and everything, it's easier for them to bring all the food to one meeting. And then we service 10 families. So we make 10 food boxes and things like that. It does help them work as a team. It develops team spirit. Oh, well, we're missing something in the food boxes. I can go out and we'll make them better together kind of feeling. They can play different roles in the group when they're working together on a project. They can either be in the lead or lead from behind, all the different things that go into finishing the project. They can all take pride in the accomplishment, getting the food drive done, getting the boxes to where they need to go, involving others, project, learning specific skills through that, and the value of working to solve other people's problems. And the third area of service is advocacy. And we see this in a little bit, well, we see it in younger people too, when they stand up for somebody else who's being bullied and picked on, and they're just wanting to stand up and say that's enough. So I guess we see that on their own in younger people, but we have a state youth leadership council, and this is something that they do quite a bit, try to persuade people, especially with advertising 4-H or promoting 4-H at different events. So this is learning how to have a voice, use your voice, working with adults and not feeling like I have to agree with everything that adults say, but being part of that conversation. And as 4-H leaders and staff, we can go a long way in helping youth find their voice. But just another different, we do a capital experience in Lansing, and it's just amazing to see when they first come and we give them all the tools, how quiet they can be before they have those tools. And then as the time goes on, they just find their confidence and can really advocate for themselves and other young people through that process. So many times, if you can listen to young people and you're trying to help them find their path in community service, there might be a common thread in what they're saying, and it may steer you to choose one of these styles of community service. So just basic planning a project. This is probably way below what you expected, but I thought I'd just throw a slide in there about basic planning community service project with an emphasis on that service learning. If you've not done a lot in the service learning area, these 6 steps will help you get there. So identify a need, do some sort of have the youth, the group needs to do a needs assessment of school community. And now when I see needs assessment, my little, don't overthink it, don't make it a big production, but what is really needed? If you can identify a problem, what might be a solution to that problem? So identify the need, do some research. What you think might be a solution or might be the real problem may not be the real solution or the real problem. So encourage young people to talk to some folks and local experts, do some surfing the internet, use a lot of different resources to research the problem and find out ways to solve the problem. And my favorite thing is just to sit down and brainstorm. I just love the energy when you get a real good group of brainstormers, and they're not afraid to say anything off the wall because it might spirit someone else to throw an idea out there. But have them brainstorm, just sit down and have a good, even on the floor in a circle or something, and just brainstorm on what they really want to do, what is the problem and how can they solve the problem. And along the way, what groups can help them or individuals. If it's the food bank, is there a food bank in your county or your area that you can funnel the food through if you're doing that indirect service project? Look for those groups that can help them. And as a service learning project, they can teach them about the problem and what things have been done to try to solve the problem. And then encourage them to take action. Have those goals, set those goals, talk about it, plan, and then do it and enjoy it. Take pictures along the way, I encourage. And then after it's all done, reflect. What have you learned? What would you do different? All those questions that we use for processing, and just let them freely speak on how they felt on the community service. I did want to say one thing, and I'll say it a little later on, is sometimes community service projects can bring out feelings. Say you're doing something for, going in and serving food or gaining food for people who don't have enough food. Young people that help you may be in that situation. They may be needing that food, and it might bring out some feelings that they need to talk about, they need to deal with. So that's something when you're working with young people, what are those triggers? What are their past experiences that might inhibit them or cause a little bit of trauma as you're going through the project? So I like to reach out and say that, put that little thing there. And then by all means, celebrate. Just write it up in newsletters. If you have a club newsletter or county newsletter, just Facebook, whatever your media, newspaper, get some pictures, make them feel good about their community service that they've done. So there's tons of ideas out there. I sometimes like to tie it back, the community service, tie it back to their project area. So we were talking about food banks and things like that. So can livestock project members figure out how to have more meat donated to food banks? organize a drive for producers to give a portion of, I don't know, either financially, either cash or in product to the local food bank, and advertise it in animal science events all summer, all the shows that they go to and like that. Can the small animal or the small engine group mow lawns for seniors or fix lawnmowers for people who need lawnmower fixed? Hold a toy drive for a shelter, find out what a shelter needs, and then complete the project. Dog project members, can they walk dogs for an animal shelter? Craft members, can they organize a mitten, hat, and scarf? And if they knit, maybe they can make them. Woodworking project group can refinish desks for a school. You see where I'm going? Maybe tie it into some project, some interest that the group has. We had a club that was, it was a gardening club, and they did raise extra vegetables to give to the local food bank, and that was pretty positive too. So back to our why. Why is community service or service learning so important? And I think it goes back to our 4-H motto is learn by doing. And this is a quote from Benjamin Franklin. Tell me and I forget. That's definitely me. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I learn. And how could it be any closer to, like I said, our motto is learn by doing. So at this point, I thought I'd just say a little bit about Michigan and our projects that we offer, and go through a couple of our grab and go kind of projects for younger members. But this, what you're seeing right now, is our community service and service learning page. Just a snapshot of our page. The philanthropy is kind of a keyword now that you'll see a lot of times with service education and service learning. So I put the website here. Maybe I'll just grab that and put it in the chat. Whoops. Didn't want to do that. Oh, it's taking me to that. Maybe not. Yes, it is. This is our website. So let me get back on track here and share my screen again. There. You can visit this website. You see down here in the lower right, it talks about Cloverbuds, and our Cloverbuds are 5 to 7 year olds. So I just thought I'd take you through a couple of the projects that we have for Cloverbuds. So this is on the right-hand side of the page here. This is one of our Cloverbud service projects. And all of these can be easily adapted for all ages. I know this one, creating care packages for deployed soldiers, veterans, or military families. This is something that I've done just spur of the moment, maybe not care packages, but cards for soldiers, cards for vets. We have a veterans hospital not too far away. So anytime I deliver cards made by our 4-H members, it's just a wonderful experience, and they're very much appreciated. So this one can be adapted to fit what you can do, what little time you can give to community service. It can be a whole club project. It can be a whole county project. But it really shows veterans and military families that you care about them. So at each lesson plan or project area has all of these sections that it includes. It always includes what's it all about, which just gives you some background about the project and about that group that you're helping. Before the project, maybe what you need to teach the young people, items that you may want to get to do the project. During the project, things that you need to think about as the project is going on. After the project, that processing that I talked about earlier. Focus on service. It's just usually, this one says, to have a successful service project, it's important for the group to work through the entire project before they actually collect items to send to soldiers, veterans, or others. So it's usually just a little bit about the project. Reflections and celebrations. There's always questions, those leading questions that you can ask the group after the project is done, and ways to change the project just a little bit to vary the project and make it another learning experience. So this is one, and I think Shane is going to be putting it in your resource website so that you can see it and use it. This one is on chemo kits for kids. I guess this is one of those projects that I would be very careful with. It's supporting families that might have people who have cancer, providing things to help them, teaching about how people might feel, that empathy in it. But you may have someone in your group, a Cloverbud, whose parent has cancer, and that could be a kind of a traumatic thing to work through. So with any of these projects, you want to think about that before you get started and have a conversation. Know your kids, know their backgrounds and things like that. So I just selected the What's It All About from this Chemo Kits for Kids. And it talks about looking outside yourself, helping or doing work for your community or individuals within your community, serving the community. Serving others also benefits the 4-H member by building life skills that may include, responsible citizen, empathetic, people with empathy. So these are, like I said, easily adapted for any group. I think I have one more. Oh, Cloverbuds on Science. This one is about gathering data, and it's a really good lead into all the STEM projects. I think sometimes we do young people a disservice with science. Sometimes gets a bad rap that it's boring. We forget how much young people, just to go outside and find all sorts of bugs or critters or this or that, is just in itself fun. And then asking the questions after they find whatever is great. But this one is based on those places that you do counts, or you find different things and you turn it in to, I know one time it was looking for a certain bug that was killing a tree, and you put out little traps for them, and then you count them and turn your numbers in. There used to be a bluebird project that was something like this, that you put out the house and then you did a journal on the bluebirds that came and stayed in the nesting box, and then turned that information into the DNR. So it's all about gathering that data and learning through it. So, and let's see. And then just to highlight another Michigan project, this is something that we did with our whole state, encouraging members and families in every state to do a community service project this summer and turn it in. And our goal was 100% of the counties for this summer of service. Many of our materials now go with Learning to Give. They have some awesome materials. So if you want to just keep that in the back of your mind, just to look up Learning to Give. On our website, a lot of the materials that we use now are come from that group, and some really good things. Another thing that we've done, this is the national project. I don't know if you've heard about this. This was probably 4 or 5 years ago, True Leaders in Service. And there is a guide that goes with this to help walk you through a community service project. We talked about Cloverbuds. Now this one involves teens, and I use this. I use the graphics from it and use the information that came from it quite a bit, and liked the planning guide and the resources that came with that. And that's right on the National 4-H Council website as well. I did want to just highlight, we did have a young person from Michigan win a Youth in Action Award. And like I said, I like to see the contrast between talking about the Cloverbuds and projects that they are interested in or to start them out with. And then let me see if I can get this to play. Can you see my, oh wait, stop share. Okay.
Let
me start this again.
When you think of rural America, I think you think of Cass City, Michigan. You walk down the street, you know everybody's name, you know who their parents are, and it's really great because I think that makes our community very dedicated to seeing each other succeed.
I love
Again, you walk. Of rural America, I think you think of Cass City, Michigan. You walk down the street, you know everybody's name, you know who their parents are, and it's really great because I think that makes our community very dedicated to seeing each other succeed.
I love living in rural America. This is very much a choice that our family lives where we live. But there are problems just like anywhere else. Not everything's perfect in rural America.
So in 2014, Cass City became a food desert, and I was really young at the time. I was 12. I didn't see right away the economic toll that took on the community. I just saw, oh, now we're driving 15 minutes to get to the grocery store. And it wasn't until I started working with the food pantry.
Food has always been a part of my life. Love it, and it's exciting.
I'm sorry, everybody. I've got it.
And that's okay. I can always post that link under the recording as well, because
Yeah.
well worth taking time to watch the video. But
yeah, it is. Let me see if I can. It is. Anyway, I'll tell you the story. Following our theme of, direct service, indirect service, and advocacy, Addie has been a 4-H member all of her life. And like she started to tell you all that her community became a food desert, and in her own mind, it was just, we have to drive 15 minutes to get groceries. And then she discovered there were families that didn't have cars, couldn't get out of the community for whatever reason. And through her contacts with her livestock projects in 4-H, she developed a system where the food bank would have meat through producers, through donations, through everybody. It's just a marvelous story, and I'll share it with Shane. But it was kind of a culmination of everything that I was talking about. Addie was one of our SILC members, or State Youth Leadership Council members, to win this national award. So it just was, you bring young people through community service and service learning, and the growth that they have, as well as your growth and working with them is just amazing. Let me see what else I may have. So this just tells you about Addie's award that she got. And this is a national award, Pillar Winners. So as you're working with young people in community service, you can bring them up to be one of these Pillar Winners in the Youth in Action program. So just their last quote from Mother Teresa: we ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less because of that missing drop. So, and with that, any questions or anything that I can emphasize or go back over or share with you a little bit more on what I presented?
I had a question.
Yes, Jackie.
As I'm just still kind of getting familiar with how 4-H works. So in our club, we have a community service committee. And what I'm hearing you say as I've been listening is that can cover all different project areas. And so it's not necessarily just the one committee that maybe comes up with service learning opportunities. I think I'm just trying to think as a community leader this year, like what can I do to encourage kind of the cross pollination, I guess, from community service committee out?
I think that the possibilities are endless, Jackie, in what you're saying. And the first step that I love to hear from you is that you have a committee of youth, that sky's the limit, that maybe you just need to give them some guidance in getting started and do maybe little facilitation kind of games, like writing on sticky notes, just brainstorming, put on a sticky note, just ones. It can be a silly, don't make any judgment on the idea, just put a community service project down, and then they can talk about them, present them, put them up on the wall and present them, and then you can kind of group them together. A lot of these sound like it goes with a school. These might go however you divide them, but then they can begin to see the threads through all of these projects, and it might give them a direction on selecting one. But the important part, I think, for your group right now is just to get them talking, get them thinking, get them excited about doing community service. I think the actual theme or topic of the project is, at this point, maybe secondary in relationship to just getting them excited over community service and giving them a success and making them feel good. And does that make sense, Jackie?
Yeah. And I think, just our committee has already come up with a project to stock some blessing boxes we have. And I think I'm trying to think, so it's really a small group, 2 families of kids. So probably 3 or 4 kids that have been brainstorming. So just trying to think, how to include more kids who aren't on that committee, so yeah.
Well, maybe now they bring it to the whole club and say, here's the project that our committee has decided on for the club to do. We're going to restock these blessing boxes and maybe give a little bit, what is a blessing box? Who do they help? Maybe a neat story about a blessing box. I don't know, just to get the whole club excited, and then have everybody bring in things at the next meeting for the blessing boxes and just see how much it is and how many blessing boxes you will have helped through that one project. And then just do some sort of follow up in your county newsletter, or I don't know how big your county is if they take a picture of the kids and put it in the paper and write an article about it, just to get them excited and saying, yeah, this is, and then they will feel the intrinsic kind of reward from doing that too. Very exciting, Jackie.
Thank you.
And so, Jackie, one thing that Connie brought up before that I think is really nice to emphasize is if we can play to that spark that they already have in the projects that they are doing, it makes the service a little easier to get that excitement. So, if you have kids that are involved in shooting sports or livestock or whatever it is, if you can play to that spark that they already like, it makes it a lot easier to have that excitement and buy-in from the whole club.
Good point, Shane. Actually, when you said spark, Shane, it made me think of the National 4-H Week theme. This week is National 4-H Week, and it's spark, ignite your spark or something like that. So that might be a neat way to bring community service into it, is through that theme. Anyone else? I love the discussions.
And feel free to unmute, or you can put them in the chat as well.
I have a question. I'm kind of brainstorming for ideas of how to keep our older members involved. What happens is about, at least in our area, about 6th grade, 7th grade, sports completely takes over and I lose my members. They become consumed by sports and the parents go, I'm sorry, we're just doing so many sports. We can't get them to anywhere, and we lose them. Anybody have any ideas?
I think that's a universal problem from Colorado, Sedgwick County. I read it as Colorado. From your place to my place, that's what I'm experiencing too. Like you said, I see a drop off around 6th grade when those school sports, and then again with jobs, and then again with driving, kind of like those 3 things. If you can get any kind of a teen group developed around community service, around whatever you think they might be interested in, and give them the permission, the inspiration to just go for it, that sometimes helps. Not always, but that sometimes helps. And then they bring it back to their other clubs and it grows. Sometimes that helps through community service projects. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
This is Heather. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Heather. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we've struggled with that too. And just a suggestion, like we were having problems trying to find even times that we could meet as a club that didn't interfere with practices and games. And so it's led us to Sunday evenings, which I'm not a big fan of, but you know what? I really kind of went around the room and it's like, when can I get most of you to participate and show up? And so we try to make it a fun day on Sunday and things like that. So just a suggestion is that sometimes we've had to move our meeting time around just to try to accommodate and try to keep the kids involved the best we can.
Good point, Heather. It's tough.
I've seen kids that age and older stay involved for a couple main reasons. First is because they have a friend group that's there in 4-H. So we see, especially when they get involved at a larger level than their club level, if the county, or district or state level or national, they have a group of friends that they know that are at those events or that are doing it with them. So encourage them to, to be social and to enjoy each other. And then the second part is, especially for those kids, is to have them do something that feels important because it is important. And usually that involves them being able to step up in that role of sharing those skills that they've learned after all those years in 4-H, in these service learning experiences, being the one to be able to, lead the group in building or putting something together because it's a skill they learned in 4-H, and giving, kind of like Connie's talking about, giving them the reins and the permission and empowering them to be the ones who are teaching and leading the younger people, gets them inspired and gives them something to feel proud of.
I agree with you, Gareth. Getting them to the district and state level to make some friends has been key in the past for my kids in my club that did stay in. Sorry about that. But I think that's one place where COVID really nailed us, because that 1.5 years off that we had really hit your middle schoolers that didn't get the chance to go to citizenship in action, what we have in Kansas, and some of the district and state level stuff. And so it's kind of tough in my club right now. I've lost several of my middle schoolers, and I rely on those kids becoming my teenagers, my high schoolers in the club. So yeah, it's kind of a tough time right now.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right, Rebecca. It is a very difficult time, and trying to pull them back into 4-H and remember what they've lost, for those that have kind of felt like they've moved on. And I don't know if anybody has any input, but we've tried to do some just really fun events, just whatever, just to get them back, get them laughing, oh yeah, 4-H is, yeah, I want to be a part of this. I missed it, and to bring them back. So I always say the 5th H is, they laugh at me, fun with an H in front of it. I think we forget the fun sometimes in 4-H, and we just need to do some things to get kids back together and have that fun, and families too, just have that fun through 4-H. Vicky, did you have something?
Well, as some of my 4-Hers get a little older, I try and have a conversation with both them and their parents. What are your goals? Where do you want to go? Are you headed for college? What are you wanting to do? And what's it going to take to get you there? Yeah, you like the sports, but when you're 35 years old, are you going to be able to do that sport? Or is your speaking skills and your teamwork skills and the skills 4-H gives you going to get you farther in your job and your life than that sports project? What's your priorities? And if you can get the parents on board with that also, that helps them. And also with my entomology group, I pair my older 4-Hers with a couple of smaller ones, and they do some activities together, and they have to plan an activity with their younger 4-Hers to work together to complete, whether it's a service field, whether it's a poster to share in the community, whatever. Pairing them up gives them some of those responsibilities, and they also have a fun time with those little kids doing it, and that keeps them involved. Not always, but it helps.
Good ideas. Thank you.
I had 3 daughters go through 4-H, and even though I work in it, when the coach said you come to sports or sit the bench, I have to admit 4-H did kind of lose out. They wanted to play, and if they didn't go to practice, they wouldn't play. So it's a really difficult place for I think our teens to be put in. So Good point though, Vicky.
So we're having awesome discussion, and please keep the questions going. Since it is a little after 7:30, I'm going to throw out. So I did draw for our curriculum winners. So if your name is on there, we'll be sending you a copy of the Facilitator's Guide to Excellent Learning Environment, because I wanted to emphasize the learning component that we're talking about for service learning. This is a great piece that will hopefully help you as a club leader come up with some great activities and ways you can engage your youth. And before, if you have questions, yep, throw those out. But there's still 3 more sessions we have. Our next one, we're going to be learning a visual arts component, and we're going to focus on some in-depth activities around how you can do barn quilts as visual arts, as well as a great way to teach math as well. Okay, we still have time for some more questions or learning from each other. This has been great interaction.
Well, I just want to thank, if there's no more questions, I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight and being such an important part in the lives of young people. We need you all. Hang in there with all the situations that we're all going through now. And I think community service has just such a great potential for impact with young people right now. So thank you. And thank you, Shane, for having me.